All right, what is this? Russia 2.0? Russia? This is actually a very serious story and a very concerning story, but here's the headline, all right? I'm going to qualify it a little bit. So apparently Russia has poured 10 million bucks into trying to somehow affect the thinking of everyday Americans by sponsoring videos from star influencers online. Now, the reason I said I'm going to qualify this a little bit is because what do you think China does? Okay. What do you think Iran does? What do you think we do? Right? Like unfortunately, this is the way of the world. Now, it's really gross that some people were willing to take this money and do this, etc. But I am going to say that this stuff unfortunately does happen, right? Go over to TikTok. And I can tell you from personal experience, the things that they'll let through on my own TikTok account. Yeah, I have one because I'm hoping it gets bought by a U.S. investor, Larry Ellison, right? Didn't Trump almost have a deal with Larry Ellison buying the U.S. assets of TikTok? Anyway, I have a TikTok account, and it's fascinating to me what they'll allow through and what they won't allow through. And I'm like, you want to bet that the CCP doesn't have something to do with this? Even consider just the sentiment that's coming that's very, very anti-Israel. You don't think that maybe Iran has a little tiny hand in that one? I do. I'm betting they do. Not that it excuses any of this, okay? So here's the headline. They're going to start sanctioning big time Russia today, and it gets worse for individuals and influencers.
Jose, this is being described by our sources as a whole of government action designed to target Russian propaganda and disinformation aimed at interfering in the 2024 election. It is said to include sanctions by the Treasury Department, law enforcement action by the Justice Department, and one of the focuses is on RT, formerly known as Russia Today, that network of Russian government-funded English-language websites and television platforms that was flagged all the way back in 2017 by the U.S. intelligence community as a vehicle for Russian disinformation and election interference. And at that time, the Justice Department required RT to register as a foreign agent. It remains to be seen exactly what actions the U.S. will take against RT today, but this does appear to represent an escalation in the efforts to try to purge the system of Russian propaganda and disinformation. What's interesting is that, look, the U.S. has been saying all along that
I'm all for that, right? You don't need propaganda from anyone. You don't need disinformation or misinformation, although, shall we say, we've seen it on the other side. Have we not? I'm looking at you, Antony Blinken. I'm looking at you, Mike Morrell. I'm looking at all the CIA ops and spooks and hacks that put out that letter saying that Hunter Biden's laptop wasn't real. I mean, not to mention that John Brennan had to insist and say that that dossier was real, which was then disproven. Anyway, the point being that I think there's a little bit of a desire, shall I dare say, to say anybody who's conservative is vulnerable to this Russia stuff, and they might be promoting misinformation, disinformation, etc. Because again, they're fine with University of Pennsylvania having the Biden Center completely, totally funded by the Chinese. I mean, China, they're not messing around. Forget 10 million. They got way deeper pockets than that. Anyway, so $10 million was allegedly directed at a U.S. content-making company that produced videos on social media. And it is believed that this company is something called Tenet Media. Tenet Media had a bunch of personalities that apparently they did individual deals with, where allegedly they were getting this money from Russia. According to the Department of Justice, the people that were taking the money in, one of them was a well-known YouTuber named Chen. She's alleged to have known that this money was coming from Russia, and she somehow disguised it to these influencers where they were doing deals. They were paying them a lot of money, like $100,000 a video. One influencer was getting $400,000 a month. So this was some serious ka-ching allegedly. Well, some of the influencers, you may know. I mean, I know. Benny's been on the show. Benny Johnson. He's terrific. I like his content. He's one of the people named in this. I'm going to share with you what he had to say about it. So Benny Johnson tweeting out, as this came out just yesterday, a statement on the leaked DOJ indictment today. He writes, a year ago, a media startup pitched my company to provide content as an independent contractor. Our lawyers negotiated a standard arm's length deal, which was later terminated. We are disturbed by the allegations in today's indictment, which make clear that myself and other influencers were victims in this alleged scheme. My lawyers will handle anyone who states or suggests otherwise. And then you get this one. He sent this one out today saying the FBI has notified me that I am a victim of a crime. Merrick Garland said the same in his press conference. I am the only person who has ever had editorial control over my program, period. My attorneys are engaged. We are being smart. Stay tuned. So, wow. I guess what's being alleged here is that somehow this woman who ran Tenant Media along with her husband, his last name Donovan, he's not on camera. She is Laura Chen. Let me see if I can show you a picture of her if we have one, because I don't know if you know her or not. Apparently she worked or does work for RT. We actually pulled this off of RT today. So she's like somehow still connected to them, and she's been big in sort of these conservative online circles because she does a lot. I've seen some of her videos. I like something, it's interesting stuff. She does a lot of good commentary on Hollywood, and had something where she's really critical of Hollywood and the media. If you look at RT though, apparently she's a political and social commentator that I guess works for them or contributes to them in some way, shape, or form. Born in Canada, raised in Hong Kong, came to the U.S. for university, bachelor's of arts in political science with a minor in Middle East studies and Arabic. So she does all these cool culture videos, but apparently was somehow with her company, according to the DOJ and the indictment, like taking in money from the Russians and then disguising it and, having people make videos. Really wild. Tim Pool out with a statement. So he's another influencer saying, quote, my statement regarding allegations in the DOJ indictment, should these allegations prove true, I, as well as other personalities and commentators, were deceived and are victims. I cannot speak for anyone else at the company as to what they do or to what they are instructed. The Culture War podcast was licensed by Tenant Media. It existed well before any license agreement with Tenant, and it will continue to exist after any such agreement expires. The only change with the agreement was that the location of the live broadcast, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, he's kind of funny at the end. He said, that being said, we still do not know what is true, as these are only allegations. Fair point, right? Fair point also with Tenant Media. He said, that being said, Putin is a scumbag. Russia sucks. Well, you can read it on the screen. I won't say it. As to the journalists who wish to jump the gun, create their own narrative, rely about what's actually going on, you can kiss my Irish, you know what. All right, so look, it's pretty, obviously concerning. I think the problem with all this is that it's absolutely fair to be critical of the Biden administration. You should be critical. Anybody who looks at how that all went down in Afghanistan, and then later we divert resources to Ukraine and to Russia, I keep saying, hey, where's the diplomacy? Like, why couldn't they actually manage Putin a little bit better? Why did it have to come to this? There were many things you could have done. Go back and read the George Kennan writings. He was the ambassador to the Soviet Union in that Cold War period, and he warned, actually going all the way back to the late 90s, early 2000s, he warned about an escalating situation such as what we're seeing today if we didn't kind of manage Russia better. And so it was mismanaged as far as I'm concerned. You should have used every trick in the book as far as tariffs and trade were concerned to influence Putin so that, it didn't come to this. But I don't think you have sophisticated enough people. And don't forget what John McCain said about Antony Blinken, our Secretary of State, that he would risk people's lives, that people would die as a result of Antony Blinken because he's not competent. I think that's fair. I think they really screwed up I personally believe that. Now, I'm a patriot, and when you're in something, you don't like to lose. We actually don't even cover the story that much. But all of a sudden, the DOJ wants you to think that anybody maybe who doesn't see eye to eye with the Biden-Harris regime is somehow maybe at risk of something like this. I think that a lot of people were at risk for a lot of weird stuff. I can go back to that guy that they just hired again. Lucky for them. Over at CNN, unlucky for them. I mean, wow. They're like gluttons for punishment. Remember him?
About emails again. This time, emails from Joe Biden's son, Hunter. So let's take a look at how a storyline is manufactured. In this case, a loudly
manufactured. Okay, so he's taken those 51X spooks side of things.
Anti-Biden storyline, redounding to Trump's benefit. First, it helps to really view this as storytelling, not so much as news coverage, but as political entertainment, where crushing the other party is entertaining. Fox News, the beating red heart of the right-wing media machine, molds reality into a serialized TV drama. That's how Vox recently put it. Think Lost or 24. Think Game of Thrones or Breaking Bad. Think Westworld or The Wire. Every day, every night, there are what appear to be new developments in this entertainment drama. And
so he's alleging that chatter about Hunter Biden's laptop was actually just part of the conspiracy, part of the misinformation. I mean, this is the same guy who started attacking Kellyanne Conway. Let's see if we have this one. Remember? Because she was trying to say, no, the dossier is not true. And he's like, but it is, it is.
To this point, we've got multiple investigations through Mr. Mueller, through congressional and Senate committees, and CNN itself has been so hot on Russia, on the dossier. CNN's been obsessed with this dossier for over a year now, and now that we know the DNC and the Clinton campaign paid the same firm for said dossier, which is completely unverified, we can't get you excited. If you look back at your whole year...
That is misinformation that you're spreading on my program,
Hold on,
Kellyanne,
a lot of it has not been verified.
Much of the dossier...
Hold on.
You just said the entire dossier is unverified.
All right, you get the point. I think what I'm trying to say here, well, there's never any excuse. If she was taking money from the Russians, she should have registered as a foreign agent, okay? Because she's effectively trying to lobby for them, right? And then that's the right thing to do. I feel for any of the podcasters that got wrapped up in that and they were told something different, as they say. But if she knowingly was taking, then wouldn't you do what Kellyanne Conway just did? Didn't she just register as a foreign agent for Ukraine because she's being paid by Ukraine to promote a certain point of view? Look, I really am concerned in that I think this administration is freaking out. They're freaking out because Kamala Harris is performing so unbelievably badly. And that as they freak out, they're going to seek out new ways to try and affect the narrative. And they're frustrated, I get it, but on the margin, it shouldn't actually ultimately really, really matter. I mean, unless it's really big and really systemic and you've got people, I don't know, like that lady that worked for Kathy Hochul in the governor's office. Remember the deputy chief of staff that apparently was taking millions of dollars from China? That was pretty bad, right? That woman was actually in a position of power, mind you. And she's alleged to have bought a new Ferrari and a fancy home all on China. And she prevented, allegedly, Taiwanese officials from getting to know the governor and anyone in her office. I mean, that actually is really something. Now, again, I'm not okaying. Let me be very, 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 very clear, right? Lauren Chen, if she did what they're alleging she did, if she knew she was taking money from Russia when we had already sanctioned, by the way, Russia, because of what's going on with Ukraine, then she did something really wrong. And what's really scary is that she and her husband are alleged to have presented these business opportunities to other people out there without telling them where the money was coming from. Rather, it was coming from according to the indictment, two Russian nationals. two Russian nationals. I'm not even going to try and say these names unless you just want to get a good laugh. But Konstantin Kalashnikov and somebody else named Elena or Lena Afanasiana. That's my best attempt. I speak Spanish and Italian, a little bit of German, but Russian was never my thing. Okay, with the conspiracy to commit money laundering, it was unsealed in the Southern District of New York. Those two individuals were at large. They allegedly worked as employees for RT, Russia TV, a Russian media outlet, and they allegedly funneled $10 million into this one company in the US. Scary, wild stuff.